When someone hurts us, the last possible thought we have is to forgive them. We become unable to think about anything else other than our pain or turmoil. When life hits us hard, the thoughts of resentment, hatred, and anger take over us. We become emotionally shackled and our relationships suffer. Have you ever thought about why all these things happen to us? Well, I have an answer, and I believe it's because we do not know the skill of forgiving and letting things go, and we neither consider it important to learn. Yet this is a serious skill that can help you live a better life. What is going on, guys? If you want to know why it matters so much and why it's so hard to forgive, then keep watching. And in part 2, I'm going to be covering how to forgive. If you're new to the channel and are into personal development, then hit that subscribe button. And if at any point you like what you see, give it a like. So let's get started with knowing what forgiveness actually is. Forgiveness is a voluntary decision to terminate the feelings of vengeance and resentment towards a person or a group who has harmed you emotionally or physically, regardless of whether they actually deserve forgiveness or not. It is a conscious decision to be nice to people who were not nice to you. Forgiveness is less about the offender and more about people who got offended. It is key to peace of mind rather than spending precious time and energy in making evil plots on how to take revenge from the person that harmed you. Forgiving others is vital for spiritual growth, and it is about deciding to accept what happened as it happened rather than wishing what could or should have happened. Psychologically, when people reported a higher level of forgiveness, they also tended to report better health habits. Not only this, but forgiveness is also necessary for the peace of the world. If nobody forgave others, this world would be filled with hate and hard to survive on. And yes, the world has a shitload of hate, but if none of us forgave each other, then it would be even worse. So why is it so hard to forgive someone? Well, forgiving a person can be one of the hardest things to do, especially if it's something terrible that's affected that person being hurt. But one of the key reasons it's so hard to forgive is because we just don't know how to. Now, staying bitter and angry is easy a lot of the times, but injured pride holds us back from forgiving others. According to science, it's because whenever you feel pain, your mind seeks to identify the source of that pain, and it first looks outside of your brain. Your brain is not ready to see you as a source of pain for yourself. You end up thinking that the other person is completely responsible for what you're going through. That's why even the thought of forgiving that person will shake you, and you will find it impossible to forgive them for their actions. But once you take control of your brain and reflect deeply on the situation, you'll know that it's not always completely their fault. In some cases it may be all their fault, but for most of us it's something we may have had some cause towards, even if it's a tiny bit. This is what psychologists call fundamental attribution error. Another reason is that whenever your brain feels like you are under a psychological threat, it decreases the blood flow towards the thinking part of the brain, initiating the fight or the flight responses, so that you stop thinking and only concentrate on fight or flight. In order to awaken the thinking part of your brain, start taking deep breaths. This will aid you in taking control of things. And then when you've got the really bad stuff that happens to people, in some cases, betrayal and miscommunication can even inhibit our ability to forgive completely. Now let's just talk a little bit about some of the psychology and how it works. Well, forgiveness has been an important concept in psychology. But how do forgiveness interventions work? Well, some of us are simply more forgiving than others and have psychological attributes in our personalities and other natural qualities that tend to help and allow us to forgive quicker than others. Some studies linked the big 5 personality traits of neurotism, honesty, extroversion, openness and agreeableness, with forgiveness. According to Worthington, neurotism and agreeableness are strongly related to forgiveness. And there are generally two types of forgiveness: decisional forgiveness and emotional forgiveness. Decisional forgiveness, then, the experience of granting forgiveness without eliminating emotions, is called decisional forgiveness. It involves a cognitive model where the therapist works with the client on time to formulate the decision to forgive. And then you've got the emotional forgiveness, and then in this type of forgiveness, the patient itself indicates differences in emotion and motivation toward their offender. Studies show that decisional forgiveness can reduce hostility, but it is only marginally effective in improving stress levels or emotional health. This means that emotional forgiveness is the goal of all forgiveness. And we are often mistaken when it comes to understanding the true meaning of forgiving. Although we have already learned about the definition of forgiveness, it is not enough. We have misconceptions about what forgiveness means, and it is very important to be clear about these before jumping towards the methods to forgive someone. One of the things I'm going to talk about then is it does not mean that you have to forget. Never intermix forgive and forget. You should never forget wrongs done to you in order to forgive someone. Blocking some form of a serious neurological condition, it is highly unlikely that you will ever be able to forget a serious wrong committed against you. Never try to forget when you are trying to forgive, because it is simply not biologically possible. So instead of trying to forget, try to focus less on what was actually done. The other part I want to talk about is forgiveness does not mean supporting the offender. Most of the people struggle with forgiving someone is because they think that forgiving someone means we need to justify what happened, which is actually not true. It does not mean that. Forgiveness does not mean that you are okay with what happened. Keep your mindset like you have forgiven your offender and you are not supporting their actions, you are just supporting your own mental peace. Next part that I want to talk about is forgiveness does not require reconciliation. The definition of forgiveness is also misunderstood with achieving reconciliation with the person who wronged them. It is not necessary. If you are not ready to reunite with your offender, I repeat, don't. Thinking about the idea of reconciling with your offender often doesn't allow us to initiate the forgiveness pattern. Another problem with reconciliation is that people are not under our control. We can't urge anyone to have friendly relations with us if they are not interested in it. No matter how much you want the person who wronged you to see the errors of their way, offer a heartfelt apology and mend the relationship. You can't force them to do so until the other side is interested. Both experience and research have suggested that one roadblock people face with forgiveness is the idea of being seen as weak. Giving up the right to punish the offender never reflects that you are weak and not able to revenge. Actually, it takes more strength to forgive rather than taking revenge. Staying angry or bitter is actually quite easy. So I hope that I've given you insight into forgiveness, maybe on a deeper level. In part 2, I'll be going through some techniques, some real actions to help you get over forgiveness. So this episode is really the background into forgiveness, a little bit of the psychology. So part 2 is where I really give you those practical tips. So if you've enjoyed the content today and haven't already, then please hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, you can give it a little like. I won't be offended if you don't. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll forgive you. But anyway, notification bell if you want to be reminded of future episodes. This has been Richard Rosa. Peace out.